All right, page 45, right at the top. While Nestor talked, the sun went down the sky and gloom came on the land. And now the gray-eyed goddess Athena said, Sir, this is almost welcome and to the point, but why not slice the bulls' tongues now and mix libations for Poseidon and the gods? Then we can all retire. High time we did. The light is going under the dark world's rim. Better not linger at the sacred feast. When Zeus's daughter spoke, they turned to listen, and soon the squires brought water for their hands, while stewards filled the wine bowls and poured out a fresh cupful for every man. The company stood up to fling the tongues and a shower of wine over the flames, then drank their thirst away. Okay, so this is their tradition, a libation. It's where they make sure the gods get certain things. So, like instead of taking the first sip of their glass of wine, they toss it and then they drink. Now, finally, Telemachus and Athena bestirred themselves, turning away to the ship. But Nestor put a hand on each and said, Now, Zeus forbid, and the other gods as well, that you should spend the night on board and leave me as though I were some pauper without a stitch. No blankets in his house, no piles of rugs, no sleeping soft for host or guest. Far from it. I have all these blankets and deep piled rugs. And while I live, the only son of Odysseus will never make his bed on a ship's deck. No, not while sons of mine are left at home to welcome any guest who comes to us. The gray-eyed goddess Athena answered him, You are very kind, sir, and Telemachus should do as you ask. That is the best thing. He will go with you and will spend the night under your roof. But I must join our ship and talk to the crew to keep their spirits up, since I'm the only senior in the company. The rest are boys who shipped for friendship's sake, no older than Telemachus, any of them. Let me sleep out then by the black hull's side, this night at least. At daybreak I'll be off to see the Caconians about a debt they owe me, an old one and no trifle. As for your guest, send him off in a car with one of your sons, and give him thoroughbreds, a racing team. Even as she spoke, Athena left them, seeming a sea hawk in a clap of wings, and all the Achaeans of Pylos town looked up astounded. Awed then by what his eyes had seen, the old man took Telemachus's hand and said warmly, My dear child, I can have no fears for you, no doubt about your conduct or your heart, if at your age the gods are your companions. Okay. So as Athena took off with her little clap there, Nestor finally realized, oh, that's Athena, and she's traveling with Telemachus. Telemachus is just a kid, and he hasn't really earned any honor yet. And so Nestor's kind of like, whoa, you've got the gods traveling with you. All right, that's pretty good. Here we had someone from Olympus, clearly the glorious daughter of Zeus, his third child, who held your father dear among the Argives. Oh, lady, hear me. Grant an illustrious name to me and to my children and my dear wife. A noble heifer shall be yours in sacrifice, so that no man has ever yoked or driven. My gift to you, her horns all sheathed in gold. So he ended praying, and Athena heard him. Then Nestor of Gerenia led them all, his sons and sons-in-law, to his great house, and in they went to the famous hall of Nestor, taking their seats on thrones and easy chairs, while the old man mixed water in a wine bowl with sweet red wine, mellowed 11 years before his housekeeper uncapped the jar. He mixed and poured his offering, repeating prayers to Athena, daughter of royal Zeus. The others made libation and drank deep. Then all the company went to their quarters, and Nestor of Gerenia showed Telemachus under the echoing eastern entrance hall to a fine bed near the bed of Pisistratus, captain of spearmen, his unmarried son. Then he lay down in his own inner chamber, where his dear faithful wife had smoothed his bed. When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose, Lord Nestor of Gerenia, charioteer, left his room for a throne of polished stone, white and gleaming as though with oil, that stood before the main gate of the palace. Neleus here had sat before him, masterful in kingship. Neleus, long ago a prey to death, gone down to the night of the underworld. So Nestor held his throne and scepter now, lord of the western approaches to Achaea. And presently his sons came out to join him, leaving the palace. Echephron and Stratius, Perseus and Eretos and Thrasymedes, and after them the prince Pisistratus, bringing Telemachus along with him. Seeing all present, the old Lord Nestor said, Dear sons, here is my wish, and do it briskly to please the gods. Athena, first of all, my guest in daylight at our holy feast. One of you must go for a young heifer and have the cowherd lead her from the pasture. Another, call on Lord Telemachus' ship to invite his crewmen, leaving two behind. And someone else, again, send for the goldsmith Laerches to gild the horns. The rest stay here together. Tell the servants a ritual feast will be prepared in hall. Tell them to bring seats, firewood, and fresh water. Okay, so Nestor wakes up and it is time to start giving orders and get things done. So just a little bit, he's got these different sons who have different orders. So Echephron, Stratius, Perseus, Aretos, Thrasymedes. Okay, and then he also comes up with all these jobs that everybody needs to do because they are going to have a party. So get a young heifer, go to Telemachus's ship, and invite all the crew but two. Next job. Get the goldsmith to gild the horns. So they're going to put gold on the horns of this heifer that they offer and tell the servants to get a feast ready. All right, busy, busy, busy. Before he finished, they were about these errands. The heifer came from the pasture, the crewmen of Telemachus from the ship. The smith arrived bearing the tools of his trade, hammer and anvil, and the precision tongs he handled fiery gold with. And Athena came as a god comes, numinous to the rites. So now, instead of being in disguise as a mentor, she came godlike. The smith now gloved each horn in a pure foil beaten out of the gold that Nestor gave him, a glory and delight for the goddess's eyes, while Echephron and Stratius held the horns. Aretus brought clear lustral water in a bowl quivering with fresh-cut flowers, a basket of barley in his other hand. Thrasymedes, who could stand his ground in war, stood ready with a sharp two-bladed axe for the stroke of sacrifice, and Perseus held a bowl for the blood. And now Nestor, strewing the barley grains and water drops, pronounced his invocation to Athena and burned a pinch of bristles from the victim. When prayers were said and all the grain was scattered, great-hearted Thrasymedes, in a flash, swung the axe at one blow, cutting through the neck tendons. He does have to be strong to cut through that neck. The heifer's spirit failed. Then all the women gave a wail of joy, daughters-in-law, and the lady Eurydice, Clymenus' eldest daughter. But the men still held the heifer, shored her up from the wide earth where the living go their ways, until Pisistratus cut her throat across. The black blood ran, and life ebbed from her marrow. So here you're just getting a telling of the entire ritual of the sacrifice, everything that's involved with it. The carcass now sank down, and they disjointed shoulder and thigh bone, wrapping them in fat, 2 layers folded with raw strips of flesh. These offerings Nestor burned on the split wood fire and moistened with red wine. His sons took up 5 tined forks in their hands, while the altar flame ate through the bones, and bits of tripe went round. Then came the carving up of the quarters, and they spitted morsels of lean meat on the long, sharp tines, and broiled them at arm's length upon the fire.